Today's conversation is with Senator Rosa Galvez. Rosa is a ball of energy. She is an advocate for climate change. She started out as a civil engineer working at a university, and she is now a member of the Senate of Canada. She is doing amazing work, and you're going to love this podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emma, and today I will be talking to Senator Galvez. Senator Galvez, would you like to just briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. So I originally from Peru, but I've been living in Canada for almost 50 years. So more time in Canada than in Peru. I'm an engineer, professional background. I was a research and professor at Laval University for many years, and since 2016, I am a senator for Quebec here in Ottawa at Parliament.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And I guess we'll just get right into the questions now. So we just had a brief summary about yourself. I would love to know what your day-to-day looks like being a senator, and I know it can be very different.
Yes,
But if you could just sum up your roles.
Yes, so I am here 3 days a week in Ottawa, but I work at distance from Quebec the 5 days. So every day doesn't look the same. We usually start, always there is a breakfast somewhere to meet with the stakeholders or specific groups around specific issues. So my days start very early, and we receive also lobbyists from different sectors also. And then we have committee meetings. Through my 10 years in the Senate, I have been a member first of, for sure, and of course, the Environment, Natural Resources and Energy Committee. I have chaired that committee for many years. I was also member of the Transport and Communication because we see infrastructure in roads and bridges and trains in that committee. So I was there for several years. Then I am since the beginning too in the National Finances Committee because as an engineer, the cost of infrastructures, and as an environmentalist, I see the cost of not moving into the low carbon economy and protecting our environment, how much this costs to us. So I think that the population doesn't know all these details of how much it represents as a cost for society. So that's my interest in national finances. Because I've been around in Canada in every province and in all the territories, the 2 territories, I also know about the Arctic. And as an engineer, climate change impacts a lot the Arctic. So while there was a committee on the Arctic, I was there too. So apart from that, there are also parliamentary friendship associations between different countries and groups. So I belong, for example, to the Europe-Canada Parliamentary Friendship. There is also parliamentary friendship for all the countries of the Americas. But there is also another one that I'm very keen in participating is the World Bank and the IMF. And so parliamentarians have meetings in the World Bank and IMF to know about the geopolitical problems and the worldwide economies and how they are changing through the present problems that we are experiencing right now. For example, very, very tangible and concretely the impact, for example, of the American administration in our economy. So so it's a very busy, and then of course we sit in the Senate the 3 days, usually from we start at 2 and we finish at 10 and 11 or sometimes at midnight.
Wow.
Last time we were here until midnight, and then I go back to Quebec and then we do things at distance.
So you live in Quebec?
I live in Quebec, in South Shore of Quebec, yes.
Very nice. Yes, and I had done a little bit of brief research before this, so I know that you also have a family, and I would assume they're very supportive in what you do.
Yes, actually, and this always brings me to tears to talk about it because as as a professor, as a researcher, I have seen thousands of young people. And one of the reasons because I became so vocal with respect to environment is because I was being a vehicle for their eco-anxiety, their preoccupations, their concern about their future. And so it's just an extended family of youth there. That was added to my own family, which is my 3 children, my 4 grandchildren, my husband, but my younger brothers and sisters. I am the oldest of a family of 7. And so, yeah, this generation of mine, I'm at the tail of the baby boomers, but I think that we need to be conscious of, we may be leaving a lot of, they are talking about a big transfer of funds from the baby boomers to the young generations, but I don't think all problems are solved with money. Money is it's a tool. Money is a catalyzer, and hopefully with purpose to build capacity and resilience in society, and it's not for accumulation. So when we talk about billionaires and very, very extreme rich accumulated, it really tells a lot of things about the society, the selfish society in which we are living. Because today we produce more food than what is needed to stop hunger in the whole world. Just with 1% of the total billionaires' money, we can stop poverty,
Absolutely.
lack of education, lack of water. So I really, to be honest, I feel like it's a hoarder type of mental issue to be accumulating that amount of money, knowing perfectly that through all your life you won't be able to expend this money.
Yeah,
So,
I can agree with that. Absolutely. You know, money, it only gets you so far. You need the minds and the people to be doing the work as well.
Yeah, so maybe I can mention something, that our economy, and that's one of the reasons because I sit there in these committees talking about finances, is that we use the GDP, the gross domestic product, as an indicator of a well-being in a society, when it really has nothing to do with the well-being of a society. And it used to mean how much gold or silver or assets you had in your reserve bank. And today it doesn't mean that. Today is like, it measures the flow, how much funds come in, how much funds come out. And so, for example, since the war started in Ukraine, the GDP of Ukraine is increasing.
Yeah.
So what does that tell? It increases because we are sending weapons. It increases because we are sending foreign aid. It increases because there is reconstruction of certain areas.
Yeah.
And so all that indicates that the flow of money is increasing, but it doesn't tell us at all about the well-being of our concitizen of this planet, the Ukrainian people.
Absolutely. That hits home for me because I have family from Ukraine, so that was a great example. I know you had, in your introduction, you had mentioned your educational path. Are you able to just elaborate on your educational path through undergrad, master's, PhD, and so forth?
Yes, sure. So I'm among the lucky people that knew what they wanted to be working on since very, very little. I come from Peru, and I told you I was the oldest of 7 children, and me myself was a very delicate, fragile child. And all my siblings had asthma, eczema, pulmonary, constant respiratory issues because of the pollution in Lima. And we suffer of water scarcity There were days that we have water, drinkable water. There were days that we didn't have, and the days that we had advisories to boil the water. So very early, to me, it was so evident, this problem, that I was always in the search for solutions. And that's something, and that's what brought me to engineering, because engineering is always looking for solution. Okay, we know the problem, so what can we do to solve the issue? And so I did my bachelor's in civil engineering with a specialty in water sanitation, water, wastewater treatment, and so I was helping already when I was in Peru to bring water to shanty towns. And the community thing was very important for me. It's like I knew that to raise one child, we need a whole village. It's not just one single family.
It always takes a village.
Exactly. And it's the same for every resource, for the electricity, for the water, for the soil, for the agriculture. You cannot do just yourself. You need a community, And so that was clear since I was very small, very little. I always wanted to work in the field of decontamination. So I came to Canada because I married a guy from Quebec, and I did my master and my PhD at McGill University. I came at a moment in which two things were appearing. One is that the banks were saying, okay, I'll lend you money for infrastructure projects, but we have to do an environmental impact assessment. So that was new at that time. And so I was of the group of people that started doing environmental impact assessment of infrastructure projects. So that was very interesting, and it made me see infrastructure from a very different angle. And I work a lot, and actually that prompted the World Bank, or Laval University, or even consulting engineering firms to want me to find a job with them. So that's very interesting, because when you finish at the university that is of such a pedigree and such reputation, you don't need to look for a job, the jobs comes. And so I decided to go to teach and to become a researcher at Laval University. And from there, I started working into remediation. There were a lot of mines in Quebec that were exhausted, that were at the end of their lifetime, and needed to be closed or remediated. And so I started with the nature-based solutions without knowing at that time that it was nature-based solutions. So I was calling them eco-technologies or eco-engineering, and I was proposing wetlands, biodegradation, reforestation, and treatments, in situ treatment, passive treatments, in order to clean sites for development to come, because you wanted to use these lands that were wasted. And that took me to so many countries, because there is so many nations and cities that were having this problem. They couldn't grow because around major cities there was always dumping sites, because they throw their domestic waste, their hazardous waste, their waste, solid waste. So it became like something that it was extremely needed. And then I realized that we can come at the end of something and try to repair it, but it was better if we prevent that situation. And so prevention for me became like, okay, we need to prevent this. And then climate change started unfolding more aggressively and extreme, and start destroying infrastructure, basic infrastructure. And the infrastructure was not anymore designed to endure these extreme weather events. So it became the other and the last part of my research and my activities as a scientist, in trying to tell the engineering sector that we needed to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions to stop warming, but also taking care of biodiversity, reducing waste, and adapting to the changes that we were seeing in the world because of climate change.
Absolutely. All of those points you brought up are very similar to the geography degree that myself and a lot of my friends are doing right now. Mm-hmm. So that's wonderful. I feel like I understand the language that you're speaking.
Good. Thank you so much.
So that's great. Talking about all of that, we're trying to prevent. It's not always about mitigation and adaptation. It's about thinking about what happens before we need that. So that's really a great point.
You have, in my area, talking with engineers, I know that they don't like when I say this, but I am an engineer. I have designed these infrastructures, especially on the wastewater issue. There are plants in South America that has my name as an engineer. And so I tell them, please remind yourself that we cannot adapt forever.
Yeah.
We cannot adapt forever. We are paying in adapting to 1 degree or 0.8 degrees. Can you imagine to have to adapt to 2 degrees if we don't manage to control the greenhouse gas emissions? Today, we know that construction workers are the most affected because of extreme heat, because they are outside, they don't have time enough to hydrate, and so their kidney functions are diminished because of these extreme weather events, this extreme heat, this extreme vapor, this extreme humidity. So we cannot work anymore. And so already some countries are adapting and saying, like I was in Italy and I was in Singapore, and I saw that the working periods have changed. So now some workers are working at night.
Yeah. Because
it's too hot to work during the day. So and we cannot adapt to 3 degrees to 2 degrees. That's a craziness. And so engineers have to worry about both mitigation, solving the problem, preventing more warming, and adapt to the present situation.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess you have touched on this a little bit so far, but at what point of either your academic or your professional career did you ultimately realize that you wanted to do something that made a positive change?
I guess you are saying positive change to become a politician, by becoming a politician?
Yeah, and what you do and what you strive for.
So when I started my career as a scientist, to me, it was very important that I use my intellect and my resources as a researcher and knowledge to solve real problems, not theoretical problems. It's me, I know it's me, because I have colleagues that are very comfortable in doing modeling and in doing basic at the physical level or chemical level or biological level research, and it's so important. But for me, it was basic to me that I work on real problems that I see in my community or that I see wherever I'm going to work. So I always work in the field. I always was talking about a specific mine and a specific site, like I did my PhD on La Chine Canal in Montreal. It was a canal where industries dump their waste for 30 years. And then Montreal couldn't grow anymore because this canal was toxic. So we had to clean it up. So we developed biodegradation process on oil-contaminated sites, existing oil-contaminated sites. And of course, I always had a research part, which was what we didn't have. Like, for example, by the end of my career, genomics was growing very fast. And because I use bioremediation methods, using microorganisms to degrade contaminants such as oil or petroleum compounds, then all this area, genomics, that was developing very, very fast, I look into collaborations with basic science researchers to give me the tools so I can be more efficient in helping nature to accelerate some process. So to me, it was always this. One of the last also sites in which I work was the horrible accident at Lake Megantic. You remember there was a 72 wagon train that derailed, and 40 something wagons just dropped their content in the downtown area of Lake Megantic city, killing 40 plus people in seconds, because the oil that it was carried was from Dakota do North, North Dakota, very, very volatile material, and it reached 3,000 degrees centigrade, and it just, incinerated people very fast. But it was an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And when we studied, we saw all the factors, it could have been prevented again. And we go back to the
prevention. Yeah.
And so we finished this research with 20 researchers from all Quebec. And collaboration for me, again, is the village. It's the village. Nothing we can do, nothing alone. And I can take myself from point A to point B. Yes, I have the energy to do my steps alone. But if I have collaboration, I can go B, C, D, Z. And so for me, I am not silly. I don't think that I know everything. So for me, collaboration, cooperation, solidarity are principles that are needed today in our society, because we have become too infatuated with ourselves, and we need to change that.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in this day and age. And I know with my generation, a lot of collaboration can come a little difficult to some people.
Well, the things are made to isolate ourselves,
Yeah.
So people want to sell us applications and cell phones and iPads, and so it just promotes isolation. And it's true that they say, well, you can have a lot of friends through Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But in reality, if you will look inside, it's just to project an image of us to the world. And it really does not promote community.
Yeah.
In some cases, yes, but most of the time it's really not for the good reason. And it's the same thing happened with artificial intelligence.
Yes.
I am studying artificial intelligence as a scientist, as an engineer. Of course, I'm interested in that. Of course, it calls to my math courses, my physical courses, my environmental. It calls to everything, and so I'm interested and I'm reading. And again, I see it as a tool. And if that tool help us put in schools in rural areas where there is no school, or in countries where they don't have enough funds to construct a school, if artificial intelligence can replace a teacher in rural areas far away, I am very happy. If AI can replace or help assist a doctor in identifying tumors, like I know it's capable of doing, identifying breast cancer at a very, very preventive,
Yeah.
I am 100% for that. But when you read that artificial intelligence can manipulate the way you think, can influence you, so to make you vote for a given politician, in that Cambridge Analytica is there manipulating through Facebook the voting, no, I'm not for that.
Yeah.
And so, so it can be something extremely positive, but it also can be something really bad. And so we need regulations, and maybe that's also the reason, because I think I have a purpose here in Parliament, so to raise these concerns and base legislation on science, on evidence, on facts, and not on ideology.
Yeah, absolutely. Through a little bit of research that I did, I see that you are, I guess, working on Bill S-243. Are you able to just give a summary of what that is and why you're passionate about it?
Absolutely, yes. So when I started at the Senate 10 years ago, I was trying to find something that nobody had thought but could have a strong impact on society.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started thinking about, how when I started engineering, our teachers were presenting us 4 circles. One was engineering, technical aspects. Another was the economy. And they teach us that we have to have the cheapest project in order to be chosen to construct something. And then we had society, because our project was going to be constructed for a purpose. Somebody needed energy, somebody needed a road, communications. And very little was the environment. But I do remember that at the beginning, these were 4 isolated circles. And I started thinking that, no, it's not like that. And so when sustainable development came, they show us not concentric, but overlapping circles.
Yeah.
And the part which was overlapping was called sustainable development. So when you take in consideration technical aspect, economic aspect, social aspect, and environmental aspect. But we keep thinking, and then I realized that actually they are not overlapping. What happened is they are concentric, and they are of different dimensions. So we live in an ecosystem. Humanity lives in a given ecosystem.
Yeah.
We live in a Nordic country. When I was living in Peru, I live in the desert in the Equatorian region. And my grandparents live in the Amazon. So we are born and we live in a given ecosystem. Inside that, we have a type of society driven, developed by culture, religion, habits, and also by the ecosystem, the rain and the cold, etc. And inside that, we have an economic model. And this economic model, for sure, cannot be infinite growth in an ecosystem that has finite resources. It's illogical. So that got me like, okay, no, we cannot change the ecosystem. Changing the culture and the behavior takes a long time, but something that we can influence more quickly is our economy. And so I said, okay, let's think about how our economic model can help in bringing purpose and well-being to the society without destroying the ecosystem in which we live. And so it was born like that. And I had a fantastic team with me. The mother, maybe I'm the father and she's the mother, or maybe we are both mothers of this bill. Today is called S-238, the Climate Aligned Finance Act. I wrote it with Karine Pelofi. She used to work for Eco-Justice, then she came to work with me at the Senate. And we wrote a white paper. Everything is in my website. If you want to read everything that I'm talking, it's in my website. And we say we need our finance system to work with us and help us build this society, this Canadian mosaic that we love so much, without destroying the ecosystem in which we live. And what is very interesting is that we already have passed acts and bills, and we have laws. And what happened is that the sectors are not respecting those laws. And that's why we are still in the problem. So we have a bill, an act that is the Net Zero 2050 Act, which says that by 2050, Canada should reach net zero. But if we don't reduce today, tomorrow, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years, how can we get to net zero in 2050? We can't. So we have to ask the finance sector to be the catalyzer and to put money in so that this money serves with purpose to well-being of society and protection as our law says that we should do. So
Absolutely.
as a senator, I cannot create a new office. I cannot create a new secretariat or an agency or an institute. I cannot do nothing of that. But what senators can do is build on legislation that exists and try to push the implementation. And this is exactly what CAFA, that's the short term for S238, is to say that CAFA, using transparency, using the bills that are already there, using coherence and holistically, is trying to guide the finance sector to be a catalyzer for Canadian economy to become a low carbon economy, which is what we say we want to do.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing about that. I can see that you're very passionate about it, which is great.
Well,
Yeah.
again, when I see the data, when I see the numbers, that last year the expenses, the cost of the losses, the insured losses, so people that had insurance lost because of extreme weather events in Canada, that costed $9.1 billion just in 1 year. And this
Wow.
curve is increasing. This is increasing. Every year it costs more. And that's the insured losses. So we can count that because people have insurance and needs to report it, and the insurance have to present their annual reports. So we know that. But that's not the total cost. There is a lot of goods and assets and people, homes that are not insured. So I've been told that insured losses is between 1/3 and 2/3 of the total cost. So for example, Fraser River Valley had a lot of highways inundated and destroyed, viaducts and bridges destroyed. Well, we don't know if those municipal assets were insured. So to reconstruct, the municipality had to put money, the province had to put money, the federal government need to put money. So we have what is reported by the insurance, but the total cost is much more, much bigger.
Yeah.
And that comes from your money, my money, all Canadians' money. And some provinces have been hit more. Like the forest fire in Banff, sorry, not in Banff, in Jasper,
Yeah.
in near Fort McMurray, the oil sands, and in which head you can think in putting a new pipeline containing very hazardous flammable material in an area very close to the boreal forest, which is impacted more and more frequently by forest fire. Somebody made me this joke when I was talking in UN in Geneva. They say that it was like, are we arsonists or what? And it just shocked me that somebody will think that we can be so irresponsible.
Yeah.
But this is where we are. We are crazy for new pipelines in knowing that forest fires are becoming more. And what are we going to do to protect those pipelines? As an engineer, I can tell you that I've been in conversations with people that support these type of projects, that they say, it's a nation building project. People that says, well, we have asbestos, so we can cover the pipeline. So that is going to be unaffordable, first. And second, a pipeline today, given what we see in the world, it's not a nation building project. Actually, it's a divisive, because it causes so much friction between provinces that is not a nation building. On the opposite. And the other point is that we have given a lot of subsidies to the oil and gas sector through the 50 years of existence. And I think that the government's role is not to pick winners or losers. That's what the normal market economy, free market economy, say, you know. So I think it's to point out the incoherences of some situations. So if you believe in a free market economy and that you believe that the market will take care of things, so why are you picking winners and losers?
Yeah.
And I used to think in the past that the renewable energy industry was very robust and solid because they started very expensive, but they have improved so that the cost of production of the kilowatt is low. And so I used to say, you know, my God, they are so robust, they have competition, they're competitive, they are innovative, and they are robust because they don't need subsidies. But that's not a fair level playing field because we give a lot of money to a sector. And if that sector continues to be profitable, we as Canadians, we should wonder why. And if they are already so profitable, why we keep giving them subsidies?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very good point. You've shared a lot about how you've gotten to where you are, which is great. It seems like you have all these smaller paths that lead to this bigger picture, which is just wonderful. So my question to you is, what kind of skills do you think it was important for you to have to get to where you are today?
Okay, yeah, I've been asked this question, and at the beginning, you know, I was tend to think, oh, women has to go into STEM in you know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I used to, and because I'm a woman and because I'm a mother, and I know that, you know, women and men have not have had the same opportunities. But really today, I think that everybody and anybody can do what I'm doing. It's I think that all the skills can lead you to this point, and it's just a matter of knowing yourself, what are your skills, and knowing your ambitions. So I will tell this to my students in engineering because I will say to them, you have to know yourself from many points of view, just from your mental health and from your emotional, and to be in equilibrium. You really have to know yourself and know where are your capacities and what are the sacrifices that you are willing to do, and what is your ambition. So if your ambition is here very high, but the skills and the efforts you want to do are very low, that's not a good scenario, because of your ambition you will be ready to do so many tortuous, and maybe, you know, you will tend to bring people down in order for you to look up, and that's not good. The best thing is that they are in parallel, you know, that your ambition matches your quality. For me today, 65 years old, I can tell you that I know that my qualities and energy was very high and my ambition was very low, and that allowed me to be always loose and comfortable
and flexible.
Yeah. So I think that for me that worked out because I was not very ambitious in, okay, be there. No, it just, the opportunity presented, and because I feel comfortable, I was ready to step in the outside my comfort zone. And so my relationship with risk, it's important to know also as a person, what is your comfort zone? Because in order to learn, you have to step out of your comfort zone and just start by little steps, and step just a little bit, and then you get confidence that, okay, I'm capable of learning this thing, okay, and this is not too much of a stress on me. I can still manage my family, my children, my house, my plants, my things, my orchids. I have a collection of orchids, and I take
Yeah.
care of them. So you need to know yourself, and I think that because of the way now society is looking into image, we are not having enough time to make a introspection of who we are, what are our values, what do we want, what are the changes that we want to see in the world, as Gandhi said, and be this change with all your being, not just your words, no just some actions, but whole of you.
That's a wonderful way of putting it. Thank you so much. It's great. So what you're saying is that you have to know yourself before you can go and be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's wonderful. I really like how you put that. Now, in terms of, like I said, we've touched on this briefly, but I want to know, like, did you know that you wanted to work for the Senate, and is that why you continued your education? What made you want to continue your education?
So this comes to the question before. So as I said, I had a capacity, and I had skills, and I had motivation, but my ambition was always very low. So when somebody offered me an opportunity, I always had the time and I gave myself the time to think about it and see, am I loose? Do I think that I'm ready to this challenge? Mm-hmm. And so when I was doing my master's, I was already working for my supervisor, and I was doing a lot of lab work. And so I was good at the lab doing cooking, and actually that's what I like, cooking. I like very much cooking.
Me too.
And so I realized that I was good in lab, and I was good at producing reports. And so when I finished my master, he said, you have skills. Were you interested in doing a PhD? And so he gave me this opportunity, and I thought, and I said, oh, I have so many questions. I was working on machine already, and I had so many scientific questions around that. Mm-hmm. So when he said, you want to do a PhD? I said, okay. And so I started, and I designed my own PhD project. Then when I finished my PhD, there were several opportunities. I was offered to do a postdoc at MIT, pay with the scholarship. Wow. I had the job offered to be at the World Bank to work on environmental impact assessment for developing projects in all the world. I was offered a job at Lavalin, which was a consulting engineering firm that wanted to open their office on environmental impact assessments. Mm-hmm. And I had Laval University offering me a job as a teacher, as a professor, because I finished my PhD. And so again, I had all those opportunities, but at that time, as I was a young mother of two. Mm-hmm. And so I said, if I go to the World Bank, my husband, is he going to want to come with me to United States? And the answer was no. If I was going to work for Lavalin, I was going to be completely absorbed in trying to find projects and do a lot of marketing and PR and funding funds. And I had my two little girls. And actually what appeared to be the best at that moment for me and my capacity was to take the job as a professor, which offered me stability, economic stability, and a nice place where to raise my daughters. And so that's how I chose to go to Quebec City, which my husband at that time agreed on doing. Mm-hmm. And so we had then our third child. And yeah, so no, in the Senate, it was absolutely not in my radar, because how can I know that Trudeau was going to change the appointment process? So no, I was actually in a sabbatical in France, trying to decide whether I go back to be a researcher or if I accept the offers at that time, which was to be an administrator at university, you know, become a dean, become a principal. So those were also the other options. And then we came to know that there was a new process for appointing senators. And through all my engineering career, I knew that the environment was dependent on the regulations, because people do the minimum. People don't do the maximum, they do the minimum with respect to protection of the environment. Everybody, the municipal level, the provincial level, the federal level, they all do. And there was a big change in the federal environmental regulations. In 1992, I passed from teaching to my students to tell them that the environmental regulations in Canada were the best in the world, to tell them that no, you are an engineer and your main mission is the protection and safety of health and safety of the public. You are going to have make an oath, and your oath as an engineer is to protect the safety and security of the people. So, and if you don't do that, you can be liable, legally liable. So, and I realized that I passed from presenting Canadian environmental regulation as the best in the world to say, forget about the environmental regulation and use more your oath as an engineer when you think.
Yeah.
And so when it came this new process, I just applied. I took it as a research grant that I needed to apply. So I wrote the best proposal that I could, and I applied, and I was very surprised that I was selected. Yeah, I was very surprised.
Well, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I've come to the end of my questions now, so I would just like to open it up and ask you if you have any last remarks, last advice.
Be yourself and live the moment. Yeah, you have to live the moment, because if you are in the present, you will prevent. You will do the best of preventions. When we are too much in the future, we become anxious. When we are too much in the past, we become depressed. So be in the present and build a community around you, and be the change you want to see in the world within your community and at your scale at the moment where in your present. And I think that if we'd all do that, the world will be so better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Senator, for your time and for all of your wonderful answers to my questions. I really appreciated this.